Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey. I am Rob, your host, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation. Going to be a fun conversation tonight. I've got a couple of guests join me. Chris Rulin, who's been on the show multiple times, back with me. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to the conversation. We've got Matthew Horkey on the show tonight. Matthew, how you doing? Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited, actually.
I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I think I mentioned to you before we started recording that I've been watching your videos for about a year and a half now, and you intrigued me quite a bit because you're full of energy. I mean, your videos, I've been watching wine videos on YouTube for several years. And a lot of them I would watch just for the educational content, to learn about wine. I'm an average wine guy. I don't have, extensive knowledge or experience in wine, but I enjoy it, and I'm trying to kind of further my own personal education in wine. And so, YouTube's a great place to find some of that content and some of that knowledge out there. But when I ran across your show, I went, hey, you really just kind of struck me, and I went, I really like this guy, and I like how he presents and gives the information. Where did you decide to do a wine show on YouTube?
I did 2015. I left my career. I had one of the biggest chiropractic practices by patient volume and by revenue in Southeast Asia. So that was a whole another story in itself. And I just after a while I liked it, but I needed to travel more, and I took a sabbatical to travel around the world. And then I found out that I was just spending all of my money on tasting wine and eating food. All of us can relate, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, and I was always intrigued because I had been watching Wine Library TV way back in the day when Gary Vee just had started. I read his first book, Crush It, while I was still working, while I was still in practice. And I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna start YouTube. I started with an iPhone 6 at the time and some Sennheiser G3 wireless mics. Luckily, I had decent audio, but the videos, I haven't missed a week for 7 years, almost 8 now in December. But those first 5.5 years, they were shit. They were crap. I was just throwing stuff up there and hoping it would hit. And that's basically how I started.
So I want to ask, now we know how you got to YouTube, but where did wine start? What's your background? Because I've watched so many of your videos, and it's obvious that you have great wine knowledge. You obviously have experience. The way you talk about regions and wines, and the way you describe them, and anybody who knows particular types of wines know that the way you're talking is intelligent about wine. But you never talk about any level of, wine specific education, whether it be the WSET or sommelier or anything like that. Do you have that, or is this just something that you've self-taught?
Yeah. I'll tell you a candid story. So we probably all know this as kind of wine geeks. The film that turned me onto wine was a little film called Sideways. Saw it my senior year at Michigan State. And I thought I was so fascinated. So I started drinking wine. At first I was drinking craft wine, supermarket wine. Then I took a backpacking trip to Italy during graduate school and fell in love with Sangiovese, just house Sangiovese. And that started my wine journey. When I moved, I traveled around the world after graduate school, did everything from meditating with monks in Tibet to running like free healthcare camps in India to doing a lot of crazy stuff. And then when I ended up in Southeast Asia, I started building up a practice. And as you make more money, you drink better wine, right? So I was going to tastings all the time. And then Singapore is like, where I lived is like you can drink everything there. The level of it's one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I think it's the third highest GDP in the world now. Currently, used to be one. It fluctuates from 1 to 3, and we would have nights where we drink 82 Margaux next to Grange. Have a couple vintages of EKM, Krug. Have a couple bottles of Krug to start, Chris.
Rob, this is how you spend most of your night, right?
No. Yeah. When my head's on the pillow and I don't see sheep jumping across. I dream of these wines that he's describing.
Yeah, but so I was doing that, and then when I took my sabbatical to travel around the world, I just dove in and just for the last 7 years, I'm in the cellar. I'm in the vineyards like all the time. I think when I started writing on a website right away, I've written 3 wine books. I started right away. And when I started that, they were crap. Like the first one was really shit. Like I was just starting out, but I was just so enthusiastic about it. And I think by the time my website started getting ranked in Google, people were complaining about certification or so. I think I took WSET 3 just because, but honestly, when you're in the cellar and everything, it was like a joke. Like I didn't have to study or anything. I passed with distinction, like nothing, because I was in the cellar talking with producers, talking with different journalists, with different critics, tasting a lot. The last 7-8 years, I taste at least I keep track about 1,000 to 3,500 wines a year.
Wow.
So it's not like it's not a hobby. It's something that I do seriously.
Yeah, but
sometimes I beat my head on the table wondering what the heck I did compared to my past life.
well,
It sounds better. I don't know.
yeah, I was going to say, and it just shows your passion for wine. I mean, you absolutely enjoy the what's in the bottle.
Yeah. I think I love the I mean, I don't know what you guys. I don't know, Chris. I know you're a big champagne guy. I think I got into it for like the metaphysical aspects of wine and what it represents. I don't think last couple 100 years, I think probably every decision that shaped the world has probably happened with a bottle of wine at the table, especially in the Western world.
Yeah, we talked. In fact, we just did an episode, top 5 wine regions. It was a subjective ranking, and Rob had his, I had mine, and we had another guest on, and she did hers. And we talked about exactly what you're talking about. It's not just a physical product that you just care about the physical properties of it. It's about these reactions you have to it, and when you're drinking wine and what it can do, and the way you can feel. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a huge part of it.
I'm at the point now where I drink. When I first started, I don't know how long you guys have been in the industry, but like when you start, working, one of the perks that people don't speak about is all the free booze that you get. So the first couple of years, it was, for me, I was just consuming way too much. But I know now at this point in time, I drink even way less than I did when I was an enthusiastic consumer.
Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I have an upcoming video titled "How to Get $100,000 of Wine for Free."
Oh, really?
A great title, by the way.
Yeah, but the unspoken perk of the industry is samples. I get $25,000-$30,000 of samples a year. Probably could get more if I was really like accepting everything and pushing for more. But it gets kind of pointless. There's always like good wine around. I don't know if you guys are recording. There's always
wow, yeah,
always a lot of wine. And so, you have a sip. If it's something that's not good, what's the point in drinking it? I give it away to friends or I throw it away.
Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, the ones that aren't good, you give it away to friends. Give it away to the friends that you don't like as much.
Well, no, I should say that, as it's not a snobby thing, but as anything, Rob too, like Rob's in whiskey. I'm not as a big a whiskey bourbon guy, but I appreciate the flavor because I don't like alcohol. I actually don't like alcohol to burn, not even wine. I wish wine was lower in alcohol. But as you grow up and you drink better and better and better, right? You drink better, but you drink less. So I don't get sent supermarket wines. I'm mostly doing anything from pretty high level to collector. So my friends are usually happy when I throw parties or give them bottles.
Right. So when you talk about how the wines that you drink, they've changed over the years, and it's more into the the better wines or potentially more expensive wines. Does that change also your audience? Like, has your audience changed? The type of people you're trying to reach?
To be honest, I'll be completely candid. Like my YouTube, like I focus 100% on YouTube now. And for the first 4 or 5 years, I wasn't keep track. YouTube gives you everything. Demographics, exactly the age bracket, where people are watching from. It's Google. It's owned by Google. I have everything at my fingertips. And my audience was like scattered because I was traveling all around, covering all this stuff. Now I'm finding that my audience is like the sweet spot of people that spend 25 to 45. There's three brackets within, and then a 65 plus, the baby boomers that were buying all the stuff. And I'm surprised to see from the comments that a lot of it is, there are the hardcore collectors, but a lot of it is just the people that are hungry to learn about wine. So they have the money, they're willing to spend, but they're just intimidated and they want to learn.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, and that's what you're seeing, because I was curious, because I feel like, I don't know if it's a product that, you know, I've become friends with who also who enjoy wine, and for whatever reason, that pool of people seems to get bigger and bigger as, you know, we kind of figure out that, you know somebody socially, but you didn't realize they drink wine, and then that connection, and you start hanging out a little bit and have some dinners and some wines. I feel like, you know, wine has gotten way bigger in the last, I would say, 10 years, in my opinion. But then I don't know if that's just a product of me being around people and finding those people, or is wine actually getting bigger?
Yeah, or is it confirmation bias?
Yeah.
I have to say this. I became my path from being an enthusiast to becoming a quote unquote wine professional happened in Europe, especially with European writers, European journalists. In Europe, where the market is super saturated and everybody drinks wine, everybody thinks they know about wine, but mostly like all places, you're drinking low level stuff. People are pretty pessimistic because it's a competitive I think I saw a tweet that there were 111,000 new SKUs in terms of wine last year, and that's not new vintages. That was new product.
Wow.
So it's I don't quote me on the numbers. It was something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, I saw something like that. It really stood out.
Yeah, and so people like all the European writers, first of all, we always have a rub because I don't know if it's I'm also an exuberant personality, so I'm not for everybody. So I definitely can rub more, conservative people the wrong way. But I think it's a complete fallacy that there aren't people out there if you want to learn about wine and want to know more about wine. That's what you get a lot from the wine industry because they speak to the wrong people. The wine media industry. If you look, especially the last couple of years, there's been some watershed moments on YouTube, for instance, which is still king in terms of video. I think I saw a stat last year, 82%. This year, it was in Forbes, I think, 82% of online viewing or whatever's on the internet is going to be video or streaming, whether it be downloads or streaming.
Yeah, I think it's growing.
Yeah, and you look at some of things that have happened on some wine-related YouTube channels. We just had a channel blow up during the pandemic, Wine King, and went to 300,000 subs. Just last year, there were finally a couple of videos on wine and some geeky subjects that went over to 1 million, 2 million views. And you look at the comments. That's why YouTube is so powerful. You look at the comments of people commenting, like serious stuff, serious questions. So there's an absolutely people out there that want to learn more about wine, that want to engage, that want to spend money, that want to consume good content.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, I think that's true. And there's a couple points there that I think, first of all, I think, and again, I'm not sure that I have all the stats on this, but I know that at least for one significant educational organization, they've seen a significant increase in enrollment in wine classes.
Yeah.
So there are people who are, and because it used to be the people who would take wine classes, there'd be some off the street consumers, but a lot of it would be people who are in the trade. Now it's just people who are just regular people who want to learn about wine are taking a lot more wine classes.
Well, it's sexy to have Sam on your business card.
Well, there's that for sure. But there's people who just like really are into it. And the other thing you mentioned, consumption, and again, just focusing on something I know more about, which is champagne. For years it was the case. It's been the case for many years that the United States has consumed the most champagne by value. So it was always. Now, this year, I think it's the first year where Americans consume the most champagne by value and bottles, but always the British consume the most number of bottles, but they didn't consume the most by value. So they were drinking a lot of champagne, but a lot of it was lower priced. Americans drinking higher priced champagnes for the most part.
I've lived, I'm going to tie this back to what you're saying exactly, Chris. I've lived abroad. I left America, and I'm back in America now for this last year, but I left in 2009. And I went through like anti-American phase. When you start traveling, you start seeing the world, blah, blah, blah. And I think as I got more into wine, I've become a little bit more patriotic because in Europe, especially, America drives the fine. America keeps all these wineries alive, that the wines that I care about, because they're usually the ones buying more expensive wines, and America's still like it's still a great market. It's still a fantastic market for wine. New York City to me is the greatest market in the world in terms of wine. You can get anything that you want there.
I think it's interesting in a couple of your videos, probably several, but a few that I've seen, you've mentioned, and you just mentioned it a moment ago, you started in Europe. But when people hear that, they're going to think, oh, okay, he started in Spain or Italy or France or somewhere like that. You didn't. You take pride in the fact that you started in some of the other countries that people may not even know wine is made there.
I started because I knew, Chris, I don't know, I probably have to pick your brain how you got into it. When I first got in line, my first love for fine wine was Barolo. But I couldn't start writing about Barolo. I didn't have any connections, street cred. I was just a consumer. So I started in all the countries that had no press, and they were so happy to get some. My wine career actually started in Turkey, Armenia, Georgia, all of ex-Yugoslavia, Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, Slovenia. Then I became kind of Eastern. I know Eastern European wines just as well. There's a couple masters of wines I know that have high level of knowledge, but I would put my knowledge up there with anybody. Hungary, Romania, all those countries. That's where I started, and then I kind of just my plan was always to just gradually work my way into all of wine, and not just that, but those countries those countries still hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That, by the way, I didn't think to do that. This is why I'm not as smart. I just jumped in and wrote a champagne book because I felt like writing a champagne book.
Oh, you were smart. You're actually, that is smarter, because it's been a long road. It took me a long time to be. I don't think until maybe this last year. I've been doing this now 7.5 years, and I don't think until about a year ago I really became fully confident in who I am as a taster, who I am as knowledge, in terms of not really caring about what anybody else outside opinions are, just being confident in my opinion, what's in the glass, my opinion, what's up here. Still being humble, because you can't know everything about wine. It's impossible. There's so much to know about wine. So yeah, I know it was a slow slug through the mud, I think.
You also wrote a book about Santa Barbara wine, I think.
Yeah, I wrote an ebook that was like, all my books were reviewed by Jancis Robinson. And she gave the first 3, she gave terrible reviews. The last one, she gave a good review. And it was more of an enthusiast thing. I just kind of made a little practical guide, but it's still my favorite wine region in America. I'm completely biased, but I think it's the most dynamic, and everything does really well. It's quite humble. You go there to tasting rooms. There's just also see cowboys on horses, right? The climate's like everything does well. I mean,
yeah. Well, Rob and I were just talking about it recently because, I used to live very close to Santa Barbara, and I loved the Santa Rita Hills, and I just remember this is exactly what you're talking about. You go there and you can taste, and people are super friendly, and the wines are beautiful.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be spoiling, but I just released 2 weeks ago. It's doing very well. Took me a long time to put together a Grand Cru Bordeaux versus California Cabernet blind tasting. We're not talking first growth. We're talking 3rd through 5th classified growth. So good wines. And the wine that ended up winning the tasting was wine from Happy Canyon, Santa Barbara County. Star Lane Vineyards Cabernet Sauvignon wine. That's always very good.
Yeah, I get disappointed as somebody wanting to continue, to explore other regions, that's a region here in the States that doesn't get distributed that well. I mean, it's hard for me in Houston to find bottles that I can explore and drink through and kind of see what's going on over there.
That's a weird market. They always complain about selling, but yet, like, they have LA right there in the backyard. Chris, you lived in LA, right, Chris?
Yeah. And
the second thing is the wines aren't cheap. You're starting at $40-$50. So it's not like a $9 bottle of wine from the Alentejo in Portugal that anybody can just pick up and they're willing to experiment with. It's interesting. And then they had the Sideways thing. So Sideways took place there. People still think that Sideways took place in Napa. Like, I don't know how they got that mixed up.
Do people still think Merlot sucks?
I think I saw a stat that there's still some residuals of that, but I've also seen statistics that say that there actually wasn't a huge
Oh, really?
change in terms of sales. It was pretty negligible. I don't know, because with stats, you can do anything you want. So I don't know. I think Merlot's one of the greatest red grapes in the world.
I'm a fan. And, I don't mind people still beating on it a little bit, because if it keeps the price down for me, I'm okay with that.
It's so funny, like all wines go up, but you look at something like Duckhorn's Three Palms Merlot. It's an iconic American Merlot, and that prices actually went down.
Yeah.
Like,
That's crazy.
And that's a great wine. I always, I'm a huge sideways nut, and I think it's all so funny how smart the writing was, because people remember he poo-pooed on Merlot, but in the middle of the film, they're at a tasting room and he poo-poos on Cabernet Franc.
Right.
And then at the end, Cheval
right.
Blanc was one of my favorite wines of all time, is 50-50 Cab Franc and Merlot.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that somehow it's one of those movies where the very ending of the movie gets lost.
Yeah.
In the discussion of the movie.
It's such a, I when people that are in wine have not seen it, I'm like, especially me as a film buff too, you like the character acting, you care about the characters, the story, the writing, and of course for us wine geeks, it's like humongous.
Okay, so if you're a film buff and obviously into wine, Matthew, can you rattle off 3 to 4 of your, obviously Sideways being one of them, but 3 to 4 wine movies that you really enjoy? Maybe if people haven't seen them, you would recommend they watch? Did I put you on the spot here?
No, that's a crappy question, because that's the thing about Sideways, right? It was the only really good.
Really?
Why?
You didn't like Bottle Shock?
I did. I liked it because I'm a wine geek, but I know I've gotten, rest in peace, Mr. Spurrier. I've gotten drunk with Mr. Spurrier before a couple of times. He shared with me on the I've read all the real book by George Tabor. Bottle Shock isn't 100% factual.
Sure.
It's only about 50% factual.
Yeah. So
I get it.
I liked it. Actually, I liked it. I think probably the second best film is Mondovino. But then again, that was edited. That's a documentary that's edited from a very one-sided point of view.
Barolo Brothers?
Barolo Brothers is okay. Barolo Boys is okay. There's not really a lot of
wine movies.
Well, that's the thing. There's not a lot of great. I did a reactions to wine scenes in film video that's actually did really well, and I had to pick out certain scenes, but really, it's like it was slim. It was hard. It was hard pickings. You had the Good Year with Russell Crowe, which wasn't even that good. It's
Chris, can you think of any, Chris?
No, you mentioned Mondovino. I really liked Mondovino, but again, that is more of a wine geeky movie, right? Like if you're really geeky about wine, you will like Mondovino. But no, see, I'm one of these people too that watch movies, and when they're drinking wine and somebody's like, at midnight, just sitting on their bed drinking a glass of really tannic red wine, I'm like, what? What's that about? And so I'm more, but that's the critical part of me, where I'm just looking for flaws in the movies.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, the Somme films were popular. I thought Somme 1 was well done.
I enjoyed those.
I actually thought, I have friends that are in the film. I thought Somme 3 was not good at all. I almost turned it off.
With the whole tasting room with
it was just over for me. That's just my hot whatever. I don't care to share my opinion. Somme 2 I think was only good for wine geeks because you saw the beautiful wine regions.
Right.
Yeah.
That's about
it. I just enjoyed them because they were wine. I get to see a little more about wine. So
it's funny about the I liked Somme 1 and 2. I think I agree with you about the third one. But 2 definitely I was really excited about, again, as a wine person. Somme 1 was a really cool story at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back on it now, when you see what's happened with some of the people who are in the film and some of the things that have happened, it doesn't, it's a little hard to watch. I don't know if you've watched it recently.
I haven't, but I have, I know some of the people personally. Yeah, it's all in a story in its own, everything that happened there. But I think it was so interesting because people had never seen that before. The whole world of wine sommelier is so mystical, and to kind of demystify that and kind of relate it to almost like sports, because all those guys want to be a best. You take it like you're a competitive athlete, so to speak. So was something that was relatable. I thought it was a good story, and some of those guys have done very well for themselves as a result of that. So good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So are there, in terms of like the things that you want to do video wise coming up? I know you mentioned a couple of them, but do you ever think that, and I'm just throwing this out, do you ever think, hey, here's a wine region I'm really interested in, or wine that I'm into, but maybe I'm the only one, or I don't know if people are going to care about this, and you shy away from it, or you just do it anyway? And
in the past I did everything. So I've got like videos about Romania, Armenia, Mexico. I spent 3 months in Baja tasting the wines. And I didn't care. Now I think of YouTube like it really like a producer. You have to when you're on YouTube full time, it's not like, there's a stat like the people that are the most successful and the biggest genre of high incoming content creators are people that are like 39 to 46, I think, or something like that. And you have to look at all your stats, analytics, see where people are clicking off, see where people are not clicking off. You have to be good at the first 30 seconds. The hook is integral. YouTube analytics actually has a stat in the first 30 seconds, what your retention rate is. So that really plays a big part on whether your videos are going to be pushed. So you have to be great with a hook. You have to be great with storytelling. You have to be relentless with how you edit the videos to not waste people's time. I think now I've got about 20 videos that are unpublished that I've just finished that are going to be released over time. And I think I'm only starting to hit my stride now. You have to really take it like a professional athlete. Professional athletes, they do the work when they don't feel like it. They don't get attached to the results from the outside. They get attached to making themselves a little bit better every single day, every single upload. So to get back to your question, yes, I'm planning to do that next year. There's a few regions I want to shoot videos on cover, but I'm working really hard on how I'm going to tell stories and how I'm going to come from a storytelling angle.
To get people hooked initially in that first 30 seconds.
And there is interest because there's a lot of great stories out there in wine. Us as a wine industry, we're pretty crappy. Like you can't make a wine bottle sexy. Like with certain lighting, I think especially in wine photography, they need to look at food photographers more. Food photographers are fantastic at showing color, texture, but then again, it's just a bottle and a label. How can you make things that
interesting? Yeah. It's interesting to hear you talk about being relentless in editing and the first 30 seconds. It sounds like a lot like what we talked about with writing, right? I mean, it's same thing. You pick up a book, the introduction needs to be short, needs to be punchy, needs to be exciting, needs to make you want to read on. I put down books. I bought books and opened them up just like a video, and I started reading it. First couple pages, and I can't finish this.
I'm a completionist. Darn it! That's so
I cured myself of that a while ago.
But I got out of writing. So I have articles on my website that rank. Like I have an article on German Pinot Noir I did. I'm super proud of, and I won a contest from it. It's in Wikipedia's Pinot Noir page. It's right under Jancis Robinson, like as the reference. And I've got some articles that rank. But I realized that I can't be the best writer in the world. Wine writing pays nothing. There are so few people there's a handful of people that make a living writing about wine. And 3, I don't have the desire to be the best writer. Like I don't want to put in all the effort to learn. I feel like I can make the best wine videos, and I feel like I can get to the point, not that I'm there yet, to make the best wine videos in the world on YouTube. So that's what I'm committed myself to. But I have so much respect. I mean, I wrote 4 books. I wrote 1 book that wasn't about wine prior to that. I'm a huge fan of Elements of Style. Hugh Straub, Bird by Birds, probably my second. Story Crafting. Those are some excellent books. But writing is, I think I listened to an interview with Jerry Seinfeld last year, or during the pandemic. Did an interview on Tim Ferriss's podcast, because Jerry still writes and he still performs. and he said a powerful quote, and he's like, writing is the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, you've mentioned that, Chris.
Yeah, it is. And you're right. And especially in wine writing, you're right that very few people are successful or make money. In fact, writing itself, unfortunately, I think has been devalued because now everybody's a writer, and
there's video.
Yeah, right. And like we talked about, 82%. Like there's a 82% of internet traffic this year will be streaming or video downloads.
But go ahead.
And to be honest, like let's be honest, writing in the wine space is crap.
Yeah,
it's really. I mean, there's so. It's just the nature of the industry. It's crap, and then on top of that, wineries, because it's a competitive space, if they're giving out samples or if they're paying, to have their ads, they want everything to be fluffy and everything and all about them. And we know that that's not real writing. That's not real journalism.
Now people might be hearing this part of the conversation and go, well, then YouTube's the way to go. It's easy. I mean, it's just a camera, point, shoot, say something, post it, and you're done.
Yeah, some PR woman. So I'm on press trips most of the year. I did a video how to travel around the world.
Well, I wanted to mention that because I thought that was fantastic.
I did a video entitled "How to Travel Around the World of Wine for Free." That's the hook, but then obviously it's like all the work that you put in.
Yeah.
And I was because I'm on press trips. I think just this summer I was 7 weeks straight on press trips in Europe. And some PR woman, while I was doing a tasting at the Douro, the en premiere of the Douro in Portugal this year, and she's like, "Oh, you're just doing video? It's easy." I was like, "Yeah, it's easy, huh?" I tell everybody this is simple. There was just a study by Tube Buddy and Roberto Blake. He's a big creator. I think I saw 100 million registered YouTube channels. I have to go back and look at the official numbers. I have it here, and less than 1%, like 0.5%, have 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Why are there not very many successful wine YouTube? Because it's hard. It's the hardest platform by far.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's not even debatable. It's the hardest platform by far. So but I do think at the flip side, I have friends in the food space. They're big food YouTubers just in YouTube AdSense revenue, making 6 figures a month. And when you be big on YouTube, your AdSense is the smallest part of your revenue because you can do so many things outside of YouTube. So I always thought, my vision is, I always thought if somebody could break through and really make it, somebody like could become incredibly powerful and incredibly influential in the wine space.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I did notice in YouTube as a whole, in the genres I watch, which are the food, and I'm a big bourbon guy, so I watch a lot of, we call it Whiskey Tube, and I'm also a big golfer, so I watch a lot of the different golf channels. I noticed that there's so many of those creators who get together, even in just, the creative space with Peter McKinnon and people like that, who get together and collab on things and are really working to build all audiences to all their channels, where when I watch wine, for the years that I've watched it on YouTube, I have never seen that until recently, Matthew. You introduced me to a young lady that I enjoyed quite a bit. I won't even attempt her name, but her channel is No Sediment.
Yeah, Agnes. She's. I have also another collab coming up with the biggest one. There's only 2 big wine YouTube channels. One of the biggest creators, and the answer is very simple. Chris probably knows this, being in the writing space. This is the best example I ever get. I was on a press trip in the Languedoc-Roussillon. It was a great trip, week long. We did helicopter rides, all this stuff. I met this guy from, he was either Denmark or Sweden. He was a former investment banker, so like he knew the business world, but now he had an online wine portal. And we were talking, we got along, and he pulled me aside and he's like, "I really like your vibe." He's like, "Don't listen to all these people." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Wine writers," he's like, "they're so insecure. They're so petty. It's impossible to know everything about wine." He's like, "Just do what you're doing." And it's unfortunate, but in the wine writing space, it's so competitive. People only do it part-time. You can't make any money off it. Super competitive. When I'm on press trips with journalists, like there's 9 people pitching to one magazine for the same article. So that's not why it's a collaborative space. And I have to admit, I was same thing. When you're not doing as well as you want, there's an ego thing. I don't want to reach out to this person, look at them, blah, blah, blah. But I found the last 2 months, I've been reaching out to a lot of people. I have tons of collab videos coming up. I just finished one with some Instagrammers and
nice.
some wine girls of Instagram, actually. They know, and everybody's just out there trying to do their best. And it's been actually incredibly enriching. And I pitched that idea. I was like, he's like, we have to collab because we have to rise the whole tide. That's how it works on YouTube. All my friends, all my creators on YouTube, friends in the YouTube space, they all collaborate. They all do videos together. Yeah. Wine needs to be exactly the same. It's just, there's not enough strong channels, and then it takes it takes some sucking up of your ego a little bit.
And I think that's why you popped into my feed, because you did an episode. It wasn't a collab as much as you reviewed Attorney Sam, John's website.
He was on
YouTube
here,
channel.
Right?
Yeah, which I thought was great. And I thought that was a really well done video by you. And you left a little tease in there that there may be another video with you and him coming out.
Well, there was on his channel. I linked it.
Okay, I need to.
Right, I linked right to, and we'll do more. This is so, and I alluded to it in the video. It's so stupid. I remember when his videos were coming out, I was watching them and I was like, God, it's so boring. Doesn't even look at the camera. He doesn't even know how to YouTube, but he's getting views. He's getting engagement. And then it was just because I was being a prick, basically. I sat down, took myself out, looked at it, said, look, takes all the information, distills it down, and then serves it up in under 8 minutes. So people, it doesnn't matter if the information's there. And then when I reached out and talked to him, he was a hell of a guy. Yeah. Like super. And we shared, he was telling me what he was struggling with. Same thing I was saying, what I was struggling with. And, he's at the end of the day, just that when I reached out to him, actually, that taught me a big lesson that A, I was really being a jerk. And then B, that, everybody's just trying to do their best. So now we send messages almost every day. Like, what are your numbers looking like? I'm going to try this. Okay. Well, you want to try this?
That's awesome. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I was going to say, oh, sorry, Rob. I was just going to say, it's like, to your point, Matthew, I think you kind of mentioned this. I mean, there's a room for people to do different things in wine, you know what I mean? And the same with wine writing, but wine YouTube, it's like, it's okay for there to be lots of different channels, and then people work together. It doesn't have to be where, one person has to, or you have to decide that everybody else is no good just because they're not doing what you do,
In every space, like I listen to a couple podcasts, they're always on each other's podcasts. One of the biggest YouTubers of all time, Mr. Beast.
Oh yeah.
He always says in interviews, like, the biggest mistake small YouTubers make is not collaborating, because if you yourself are just doing one thing and you make 100 mistakes, that's finite. But you have 5 people that are each making 100 mistakes, that thing compounds.
Yeah. And
you all learn from it. So I just shot some clips with an Instagrammer that we were in the past, we were in a competition for a contest for, and it was a popular vote. So, but I didn't really talk to her that much, but we've been close now, and I had a blast shooting. She was awesome. And I mentioned more of it happens in that space, but it's not going to happen with the traditional wine media space. That time is.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's going to be people that are kind of to your point that, and you're kind of fit this mold. Maybe people like me, people like you who enjoy wine and think there's a space for it on YouTube, and just, like talking, just talking about it. Those people getting into it and doing it. And I think, I mentioned to Chris, I think you're kind of leading that way, knocking that barrier down, because I've not seen anybody else. I'm lying. I've seen one other person. I remember when Wine King was traveling Europe, he stopped in with Constantine Baum on his channel for a quick little show. I did see that one, but I don't think that's going to...
You'll see Constantine on my channel pretty soon.
Hey, nice, because he's another one that I enjoy. I think Constantine does a really good job.
He's good. Yeah.
He's actually, another thing, like... So I have a video coming up that he's really helped me with a lot. And it's so funny, when we started out, my channel was bigger than his, because I've been doing it for 7 years. He's been doing it for a long time. We actually talked a little bit, And it's so funny because after our talk, he just kind of, YouTube found the right audience for him and he exploded.
Yes.
And I didn't. I said, and I was just like, God, you have this little petty feeling. But in the end, now, I mean, I talk to him about a couple times a week. We share ideas, and he's been really helpful in actually a potentially big. I don't want to potentially big video coming up.
That's awesome. I think that's great because I was going to hope. And, you know, not that I need to suggest to you to do that, but I hope that you guys would be talking and other people in that, you know, in the wine arena on YouTube.
Wine King, we've tried to connect to. I know Jay. I talked to Jay. He's the pioneer, really. He's the one that really blew. I think I keep track of all the channels. You can go to Social Blade to keep track of everybody's socials. December 2020, that first year of the pandemic, he gained 98,000 subscribers in that month.
Yeah.
He just kind of, but he had also been making videos for 5 years. He had been making videos for a long time.
And you talk about a guy who was successful without, you know, and I'm not, it's not a knock. It's just an obvious, you know, view of his channel. It wasn't high production value.
No,
it
not
was
at all.
him and Peter and Patrick sitting around.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some dinners with Patrick before in the past. We've drank wine together. Peter, I haven't met in person, but the reason the show is successful is him. Just like, I'm not going to, okay, he's not as a big a figure, but like there aren't very few people that are willing to put their butts on the line.
Yeah.
He will pan wines. That's why Robert Parker became so popular. He whether you liked his opinion or not, he said, this wine's crap to me. This wine's really good.
Yep.
And I don't care what the winery thinks. And
that's interesting. You brought this up earlier, but I do wonder about that aspect. How many people are still doing that or willing to? Because so much of wine writing now does come out of these press trips, it seems, or at least people, you know, writing from wineries or in contact with them. And, you know, and by the way, I consume a lot of wine stuff, right? Or wine writing. I'm subscribed to a number of print magazines, digital magazines. But, you know, more and more, I just wonder how much validity there is to a lot of it, because how, you know, it's so tied in. And Jason Wilson wrote a really good article recently. I don't know if you
was about the Venice thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Jason's. I mean, I love his books, and I subscribe to his Substack. But he wrote, he just busted out with, there's just this intertwined nature between wineries and these writers that and magazines that really is anti-consumer.
I'm in a weird space because when I started out, I was funding everything by myself. Not anymore. I'm on press trips almost exclusively when I travel, and I'll address that. So winery, I was like kind of in the middle. So wineries, like I'm like, am I a consumer? But I know a little bit, or I'm not really a journalist. So I built these relationships, and wineries and producers shared some really intimate details. These are things that I can't really come out and share openly. And there's a lot of stuff going on that's not really pro-consumer. I raised the question. I was on a press trip. I was on 7 weeks straight, and part of the reason that I also in this space is, it's amazing. I'm still humbled that producers, regions, countries pay me to pay for my travel, pay me to go on these trips to experience culture, to drink, you know, to try all these wines I couldn't buy all by myself anyways, to eat food. And I raised the question to journalists. I was like, I think they were poo-pooing on influencers or marketing. And I said, you know, I'm in between. I don't know what I am. I call myself a YouTuber. That's because I focus 100% on YouTube. And I said, just wait a second. How is, you know, you writing for a magazine? How is this any different? Isn't this like, this isn't real journal? Like, no, it's just a research trip. And I said, really? You're getting wined and dined here? Like, really? Is it? I think it's fabulous, and I take it. I don't say take advantage, but I welcome every invitation to press trips. It's an opportunity for me to learn.
Sure.
But you're right. Is it really pro-consumer? I did 4 sponsored videos on my channel. One of them is up as a finalist in a big YouTube contest. It was on Avignon Nessi and Beyond di Santi. and it was awesome. I was paid for 2 weeks. Expense account stayed there. I had it was the video I'm most proud of. I had all the time to shoot, go back to location, shoot again, think about it, shoot. I had so much footage. I made, really, to me, the best video I've ever made in my life, the one I'm most proud of. And I'm gonna do some upcoming videos. Like, I'm gonna do a Super Tuscan video, and I need some samples. So I reached out to Avignon Nessie to get some of their Super Tuscans, but I'm gonna taste them blind. So there is a line blurred there, but to me, they paid for that video in the past. This has no bearing. I'm gonna taste everything blind. My channel relies entirely on samples, except a few videos where I go to the supermarket and buy cheap wines and taste and evaluate them. And I'm sure I've had blind tastings where some wines didn't do so well, and I'm pretty sure that I won't get samples ever again from those.
Yeah, but you keep your credibility. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's a tough line though, because you can't. I know Lisa Peretti Brown, and I'm not picking on Lisa at all. She was writing for the Wine Advocate. She was head of the Wine Advocate. Robert Parker's the Wine Advocate. She started her new platform called the Wine Independent, where she said it's going to be fiercely independent. And to me, I was like, how can you literally be completely independent if you're depending on visiting producers for them opening the wines, or you getting samples? Like,
yeah, it's tough. I mean, I get samples. I mean, there's no way. So, Jane Anson talked about this recently. I mean, there was a discussion of ethics in this wine writer symposium that I attended, and she is a great authority on Bordeaux. There's no way she could do her job without samples. She's not going to drink. You're not going to buy all these wines. So I don't think there's an issue so much with samples alone. I think it's more a question of, when she said, she does not accept a lunch, she doesn't accept a dinner, she doesn't socialize. She lives in Bordeaux. So it's kind of hard to me. She doesn't socialize.
Oh yeah, because they know how to wine. They're the second best by Napa at wining and dining.
Yeah. So I think it is very tricky, but it's something that is starting to divide. I think consumers are starting to figure out, who's doing what, and I think it can be important.
Well, I'm not poo-pooing like Lisa or anybody, because I depend on samples too. It's just you can't do the you to be like really truly 100% independent. You'd have to be able to go out and buy wine, and who has that kind of
right?
If you have that kind of financial power, like why the heck would you? There's no point in you going out and buying a bunch of wine to create content. You just go buy wine and enjoy what you want to enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Wine media is in a funny space. Somebody commented in my channel the other day and left that's the power of YouTube. The comments you get on YouTube are unlike any other social media platform. It's not a fire. It's not an emoji. It's not like people leave paragraphs. And somebody left a comment, and I think he got the numbers wrong, but I'm just using this for reference. He was like, wine YouTube's in such a weird space. He's like, wine's a $1 billion industry. I don't know the actual figure, but there's only a handful of somewhat successful YouTube channels out there. My friends that are huge creators are like, why are there no big wine YouTube? Like the wine content is pretty poor. And it's a wine media is in a funny space. The handful of people that figure it out are really going to win.
Yeah, no, I agree. What that gets me to ask you, Matthew, how do you see YouTube evolving in the wine space? Are you looking forward to new people coming in and seeing new creators coming in?
Yeah, I welcome. Number one, YouTube's always looking for new talent, new kind of big guys. I don't know what YouTube's policy is on pushing alcohol. I know in TikTok it's a problem, and the algorithm does not push alcohol content. That's why there's not a lot of big wine TikTokers either. I do, like Constantine and I were talking, we think that wine YouTube's only getting started. There are only a handful of people doing high production content, and I welcome anybody to give a try. It's and people think they can just come. Somebody was asking about, I'm like, go ahead, give it a try. You can't just come in and just expect that you're going to be awesome. It is.
Oh no,
it is diff. And I even have there's this new channel, V is for V, not new. He's been posting for a while. He does posts like high production videos, like
he's got a whole
videos.
crew that goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know where he's financing it. I actually need to reach out to him. Speaking of swelling.
He's from Chicago.
Yeah. Speaking of swelling up my ego, somebody brought it up today actually, and I need to go out and reach out to him. But you notice when he does his like talking head videos, doesn't get near the amount of views.
Yeah.
Because people become accustomed to, and how it's just, maybe it is. I don't know if he's independently wealthy or what kind of sponsorship he's getting, but is that like sustainable? That's why you see if you look at all the best YouTubers, and I love it, even my channel, I'm not saying me, but like, I think Marquez Brownlee is the biggest tech YouTube channel in the world. He's had Kobe Bryant. He's had Osama bin Laden on his channel. But on every big creator, you can go back and click videos and sort by oldest.
Yeah.
And you can see on his channel still, or is him when he's 14 years old, making software reviews on his PC. And that's the people that really make you grow organically. You learn, you acquire skills, you grow. And I think there is space for people, especially with YouTube Shorts. There's a lot of virality in YouTube Shorts, so I think there's potential. I don't know what it's going to look like. I still haven't figured it out by any stretch. I'm trying.
Yeah, because I've noticed that there were channels that I used to watch that, just in the last 3, 4, 5 years, they just haven't produced in that amount of time. The last 3, 4, 5 years.
People
was one that I enjoyed.
Yeah, you don't realize how much work it takes to edit a video that people want to watch, because if people don't click, and people get discouraged very quickly. I have a friend who's a big wine Instagrammer, and he told me, he's like, I don't feel like there's any influence on my Instagram. I was like, well, you're right. but so he started a YouTube channel, and he was really discouraged by the performance. And I said, look, people aren't going to come over cross-platform. YouTube is its own animal, and you have to learn. Like, people that win, you have to sit there and you have to learn, and you have to post. You have to go through, like you a business, success never, I had business before. Success doesn't go like this. It goes,
that's right,
like this. Yeah. So,
and I'm kind of funny because I've been shooting videos, practicing, if you will, for the last couple of years, but it's not to a place where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to make a channel and put it on yet. And so and the hard part about YouTube is, one of the analytics is, length of your video needs to be short and concise to keep the viewer engaged. And man, when you start getting into wines and having that discussion, I don't know if you're naturally a fast talker, Matthew, or if you develop that skill, because you're able to talk in a way that you get a lot of information across very quickly, and that's a skill.
Yes, I wasn't even when I started. You can go back and watch my old videos. Terrible. My girlfriend at the time when we started, she's honestly like, I wouldn't even watch your videos. And we started the wine, like our brand together. I learned how to relentlessly edit everything.
Yeah.
And it can't be a hard cut. It can't be a jittery, because then people are all over the place. You learn how to layer it with B-roll. You got to learn how to zoom in, zoom out. You got to learn sound engineering.
Yep.
You have to be. You have to make it super interesting and super engaging, and that's hard to find the art of how do I inject a little funny stuff, some of my personality in, without taking away some of the context of the information. It's really an art, and that's what's cool about YouTube. You find, once you post a lot of videos, you start to find your own audience, and then you can read all the data in the comments and see what people like, what people don't like. I don't think there's not a certain personality that wins. I follow a tech YouTuber that has a lisp. He talks like this, but he's great. One of the biggest vloggers in the world now, Emma Chamberlain. I think her personality is, but she's got a huge following, and she's doing pop-up restaurants now and all this stuff, and people are.
I think Chris mentioned it. There's a place for everybody, I guess.
There is, and that's the thing. That in some of it, it's so interesting because it's indescribable. I knew this is not having anything with YouTube. I knew a lawyer a long time. He stuttered, and he was extremely successful.
Yeah,
just like, first of all, he was super smart, really good at what he did. But you talk to him, you'd think, okay, this guy isn't going to make it, right? But he did. And so, there isn't just one personality type, I think.
No, the people, I think that, at least I know my favorite YouTuber, YouTube is also so difficult because people can see right through on video. People can see right through inauthenticity.
Sure.
And that's the problem with Wine Meat. Like I read for me, when I see writing, I need to see scores. I don't care if it's right nor wrong, but I just want to see somebody had an opinion, whether sponsored or not. Like, I just want to see an opinion. On Instagram, there can just be like all these tasting notes in a photo. I'm like, do you like the wine or not? Like, you can't hide on when you do it all longer. You can't. TikTok is even, I'm not as a huge fan of TikTok because I had this discussion with my friend he's got a humor channel. Like, it's what kind of like a trailer trash humor. Like, I'm not saying that as a derogatory. That's his character,
sure.
And people like it. It's not for me. And I told him, I was like, I don't like TikTok because I feel like it's all an act. It's very inauthentic. That's why I still think YouTube is the most powerful, because people that get good, you really connect with a high quality creator. And the only way that they become high quality, become really good, is if they're authentic.
Well, yeah. I think people, and I probably have this opinion because I think it's how, I watch YouTube. If it's something I'm trying to get, information I'm trying to gather, I look for that information and I get it, and I'm not worried about how it's delivered as long as I get the information I'm looking for. But then there's times I want to get information, but I also want to be entertained. I want to enjoy while I'm watching. And then those are the channels that I'm going up to and going, okay, subscribe. I like this person. I'm definitely want to continue to watch what they're putting out. And so I think you and Constantine and people with personality are a huge part of what makes me continue to watch their videos, as well as getting some good content.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Matthew, you kind of alluded to this, and Rob, to your point, but said a different way, is when I watch a video or I read something, it's like, I wonder, how into it is this person, right? How into the product are they? And so there's a guy, for a while I was trying to learn how to sharpen kitchen knives. Mm-hmm. There's a guy who's just got this great channel all about knife sharpening. And this guy, he's super competent, but there's actually a lot of people who are super competent at it, but he is so into it. I mean, you could tell, the enthusiasm is just coming through. The thing about wine, and I don't know what is going on, but you read a lot of wine writing today, and I really seriously wonder whether these people like to drink wine.
I can tell you, to back off your point, number one, I have an acquaintance that has a plumbing channel that's got 600,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
On a plumbing channel. Yeah. He's from Texas too, actually.
Yeah.
And number two, I'm in a weird space, like until maybe like the last year, where I'm on press trips, and most of the sites, like traditionally old journalists, old guys older than me. Once in a while, there's maybe like an Instagram girl or girl or guy. I don't want to describe. There could be an Instagrammer, and I'm like, what am I? I'm kind of in between. And it's so funny to see the personality differences. Sometimes when I talk to PR companies, they'll always say, wow, you're not jaded. Usually the writers I come across are quite jaded, and I think it comes across in their writing, Chris. I think. Yeah, do they even like to drink wine? I mean, it can get monotonous. Like, I don't think I could have stayed this as long without YouTube. Like right now, I'm like equally, maybe more passionate about YouTube than I am wine. Both but they will have hand in hand. But like, it does become monotonous. Like if you're under pressure, you're going to hear the same story over and over and over again. You're seeing the same seller. Wine, you have to be incredibly focused, because now with Chris, you more experienced taster than me. Like, you've been in the space probably longer than I have, but even 30 years ago, a lot of wines were flawed, right? Now wine is so good at every level. So the differences are minute.
Yeah. Not only differences, but then, a lot of wines, frankly, from different parts of the world are starting to taste the same, and have for a while, not starting to. This has been going on for some time. Although I think it's actually splitting now so that they don't as much.
Yeah.
But you're right. The stories are the same. All the wines taste the same. And yeah, it does get difficult at some times to try to make distinctions that matter.
And that's why writing is so different. I think video is, I have a lot of time actually doing on location videos. I do like these travel vlog videos where you see the personalities, you meet the people, but also that takes like a tremendous amount of time and effort in terms of editing and all that kind of stuff. But that's why the reasons the people that sell their wines are the people like Miss I can't remember his name now. Rest in peace. Former owner of Chateau Moussard. Now his son Mark runs it. I can't remember his father's name, but Chateau Moussard. He was traveling around the world telling the stories about transporting the grapes around along the war lines during the Lebanese Civil War. People that really can sell their wines are people out there talking and are visible, and people want to deal with people that they like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point, though, Matthew, about the traveling and getting to, as the viewer, see those people who are actually putting, what's in the bottle. Those are the, when I drink a bottle of wine and I really enjoy it, it makes me ask the question, what's the story behind this bottle? And you're to a point, delivering that for us.
I think that you cannot really communicate about wine unless you're out there traveling, just like old journalists. I can't remember what it was. You're a gumshoe detective or something. I can't remember. Yeah. But you have to be out in wine. You really have to be out there. I think for the first 5 years when I was starting out, I wanted to be a wine critic. I wanted to be a journalist, like a name. That's what I wanted to be. And it took until like the last year and a half where I just let that go. And like, oh, I'm a YouTuber. I'm not a wine critic. I'm a journalist. I'm a YouTuber. That's what I am. One of my personal rants, thing that's not so great about the wine media space is I got so much, especially when I was younger, when it just started out, got so much like, what's the word I'm looking for? The Riesling's getting to me now. I got so much resentment and people talking down on me like I didn't know anything. And I was probably obnoxious because when you're young, you're trying to prove that you do know something. But I've just kind of gotten over that the last year and a half. Like I said, I travel all the time. I've been to every wine region in Europe now, every great wine region except Madeira, and all the lesser known ones, and a lot of them in the world. I feel like finally I'm like, I don't really have to feel lesser, like my knowledge. There's a lot of people that know more than me. I get it, but I don't feel like I have to subjugate myself to anybody.
So what's a wine region that you haven't been to or haven't covered as much, don't have as much, on the ground?
Australia.
Okay.
When I lived in Singapore and Hong Kong, I drank, because most of the high quality Australian wines stay in the oceanic region.
Yeah. And
they are just, the small producers there just smashing wines, like on par with, for me, like I love European wines because of the history, probably the most, like Chris, but honestly, a lot of times when I'm doing blind tastings, almost all the time, California usually wins.
Oh, really?
I think California is the most dynamic region in the world, personally. You think it looks at things happening in the Sierra Nevada ranges, like Lodi with the old vines. There's Santa Barbara, for instance. There's so much amazing stuff at Mendocino. And Australia is right up there. I just got in contact with a few people. I'm going to get some samples finally. I'm going to do like this big cult Cabernet video versus like Bulgari from Tuscany versus some Australian. And we're talking like real high level and see like what the difference is when you taste them blind. But Australia, I'm a huge fan. I used to go to tastings all the time. I love the wines in Yarra. There's a cool climate region called Pemberton, which is south of Margaret River. I've always loved those wines. Macedon Ranges tastes some great Pinot Noirs. I think it's an incredible country in terms of wine.
I had a region in my mind that I thought you might say. Obviously, I was wrong. I thought it might be South Africa.
Yes. I have not been to Africa yet. I taste a lot of South African wine. And I'm not like right now they're having Cape wine, and I see some people, my friends there. I'm like, I want to be invited. Darn it, get invited. But yes, I have gotten my socks knocked off by some South African wines, and I have friends that just say, like, for instance, Cape Town's the most beautiful city they've ever. Have you guys been there?
No.
Have either one of you?
I've been to Cape Town. Yeah, Cape Town is gorgeous.
So South Africa, I want to get there. I mean, it's really an old world. It's New World, but it's really an old world region.
Yeah, it is.
And I really am interested to see, especially not just the normal stuff, to go up to Swartland. And oddly enough, so funny, I love the great sweet wines of the world. Been to Sauternes, Commanderia, and Cyprus. I go to Tokai a couple times a year. I love sweet wines. I've never tasted a Constantia yet. I've never had one yet.
So first of all, that's funny you say that, because I love Constantia. And in fact, I think I posted something about this on Twitter a while back because my wife, I love sweet wines. My wife doesn't really. But I had a Vanda Constanza. I said, hey, open it up. I'm like, hey, try this. She's like, wow, that is incredible. Those are some of the great sweet wines.
To me, sweet wine is the greatest, most magical transformation from grape to wine. It's the most complex. It's definitely the most age-worthy. A lot of wines don't age as well as people claim. Sweet wines always age well. History, there's a reason all these wines were wines of kings back in the day when there wasn't processed sugar and you're drinking something that's naturally sweet and gives you a little bit buzzed. That's no wonder it's a wine of kings.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it's no wonder that, and they're so hard to make because you age them for so long. For me, Tokai is my favorite sweet wine in the world. Before the pandemic, I was going there 2 to 3 times a year. So I feel like I know, outside of a few Hungarian specialists, I feel like I know Tokai really, really well. And I've never, everybody says, oh, I don't like sweet wines. Every single person that says that, when I've given them a Tokai, a sweet Tokai, their eyes are always like,
Yeah. I was talking about this recently with Rob. I think that I have the same experience. I went to a dinner. I brought, I think it was an 89 Chateau d'Yquem. Mm-hmm. And nobody at this dinner had aged d'Yquem before, or aged Sauternes, frankly. And they could not believe it. I mean, they were just sitting around. This is a dinner where we're having all this old Bordeaux, red Bordeaux, expensive.
Yeah.
It was something that everybody walked away from thinking, I cannot believe that I haven't done this before.
I have a quick story about 89 d'Yquem. This year I was on premiere for the first time. I won a contest. I got invited. It was like a week-long VIP trip. It was awesome. Did a couple entrepreneur tastings, but mostly we were just getting drunk at the chateaus every night. And I got invited to Yquem's cocktail party, and it's a big deal during on premiere because each chateau only gets one invite, and then there's some media, so it's a great prestigious thing. And I was with the group, and it was great. You're in Yquem. It's freaking magical. It was a beautiful spring day, and in the center, they had all the appellations of Bordeaux pouring wines from 2000 to like 2015. And and I was sitting there tasting. I was having a good time. First of all, I had to pinch myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe where I started, 6-7 years ago, paying my own way. Started tasting like a lot of crap wine. Eventually, some pretty decent wines, some exciting wines, and here I am invited Yquem, and I had some person in my group said, I want to go. He was kind of tired, and I said, you can. I was like, I'm not going. Look at all these beautiful. We're here. I am not going. And a lot of people left, and at the end of the night, they started pouring 89 Yquem. And since there were less people I drank like 2/3 of the bottle. I just sat there and I drank like 2/3 of the bottle because there weren't a lot of people around.
Rob, we got to stay to the end of the party.
Yeah, don't be a quitter.
I don't like that. Nothing good happens before midnight. I think that's completely bogus. A lot of good things happen after midnight.
There you go. Exactly right. Well, Matthew, man, this has been a great episode. I appreciate you taking time and coming on and having a conversation with us. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me. It was nice and free flowing, and I hope your audience got something out of it. So I appreciate it. I'm sure they did. And tell them where they can go find you. I mean, the name of your YouTube channel. Tell them. It's right it's right, Dr. Yeah. Matthew Horkey. You can just look up Matthew Horkey on YouTube, and I will come up. You'll see my annoying face all over the thumbnails. So, do we need to mention anything about exotic wine travel? No, it's so funny because I started that company with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I just kind of. Okay, YouTube's where we're at. Yeah, I just kind of switched over. Just now, my brand is my name, basically. That's it. Well, for those listening, if you haven't went and checked out Matthew's videos, they're definitely informational, but they're fun to watch as well. So go check him out if you haven't done so already. Hopefully, we'll get an opportunity to have you back on, and we can have some more conversations with you, Matthew. Really enjoyed it. Rob, Chris, thank you so much. Yeah, it was great to meet you. Yeah, it was nice to meet you. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey. And until our next episode, enjoy your next pour.